Welcome back to YellowCard Vanguard. I'm your host, Toku from It's Toku TV on Twitch. Throughout the week, I'm streaming Vanguard on my Twitch channel. We'll be building decks, playtesting, and just having a grand old time, so be sure to swing on by. With new clan collection reveals coming out every day, you know what that means. It's time for a new chapter of clan collection cores. I want to preface this video and the entirety of the series by saying that many of these lists are entirely conceptual and surface deep, and will need your own playtesting to fine-tune. But each of these will aim to provide a way of thinking on how to take your new support in Clan Collection 3 and 4 and put it into a working deck. They won't all be optimized, but I believe they will be a good baseline to build off of. Welcome to Clan Collection Cores. I've already had my intro spiel in the last video featuring D3R, but I'll go over it one more time for those more interested in Lawkeeper than D3R. And that is, when you're playing Kagero in V Premium and you're not playing Overlord, you are actively kneecapping yourself. That being said, you are also actively being based. Overlord as a deck is a very vertical deck, focused on going very tall on your center column. Selfish as you may, D3R is similar. Now, Lawkeeper is very interesting in the fact that it brings horizontal gameplay, but also battle phase interruption. Let's take a deeper look. Dragonic Lawkeeper. As a Vanguard, at the beginning of both players' battle phases, you can counterblast one and soul blast one, and for every 3 of you and your opponent's rearguards, your opponent has to bind one of their rearguards. At the end of the turn, your opponent calls the cards bound from this effect, but auto effects will not proc from said calls. Lawkeeper also has a continuous skill on the Vanguard circle. If your opponent has no rearguards in the back row, all of your units gain 5k. Then, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and has no rearguards, period, your units gain another 5k for a 10k total. This applies on both turns. What's cool about Lawkeeper is that both of its effects play into each other very well. I'm of the opinion of the pattern of these new for every 3 of you and your opponent's rearguards, do X is fairly lukewarm, but Lawkeeper's second effect forces your opponent to play into increasing the rearguard count to avoid dealing with the +5 or a 10k board globally. What is awkward about Lawkeeper is that it's in a deck that doesn't have as strong of an ability to spam the board, so to say, and Lawkeeper works best when that 5k buff affects more units, and having more units then forces your opponent to then play more of their units as well. On stream over at twitch.tv/ITSTOKUTV, we figured out so long as you're able to produce 4 rearguards, if your opponent can't match and field at least 3 rearguards, they lose a rearguard attacker. And even when your opponent does field 5 rearguards, they're forced into either 1 rearguard attack or 2 rearguards attacks into a 5k buffed board. Once again, I will reintroduce the Blazing Flare Dragon as well. Once per turn, you can Soul Blast any number of cards, but at least 1. And for each card you Soul Blasted, you can retire an opponent's rearguard. Then, if Blazing Flare was your Vanguard, and you Soul Blasted 5 or more, your opponent loses all of the markers on board and in hand. His second skill activates on attack, to mandatorily Soul Charge 1. Then, if our opponent is grade 3 or greater and has no rearguards, Blazing Flare Dragon gains 10k for the battle. Two effects that activate on van or rear, and also gaining a force marker makes it super versatile and super splashable into any build. You could play this in any Kagero variant at some number and have access to a field nuke, and into certain matchups that farm markers aplenty. I'm looking at you, Luard. You can rewrite into Blazing Flare and send them back to square 1. Let's take a look into the list and what our win con is. Unlike D3R and Overlord, our win con isn't looking to slap our opponent with our multi-crit Vanguard twice. More so, we look to overwhelm our opponent's board with constant pressure until they hit a breaking point. We want cards that synergize with Lawkeeper's effects, cards that help facilitate board wiping and also board building. Once again, I look towards running 4 copies of Blazing Flare Dragon for its easy field wipe effect, and also because it's a really good strong rearguard coupled with Lawkeeper's buff. I've opted to double up on Lawkeeper's empty board strength by going into Wyvern Strike Doha and Wyvern Strike Garan. Normally reserve a Blade Master, but they both play doubly well with Lawkeeper. Being able to build a board with Doha, Superior Calling Garan, and both having effects that go off when your opponent has no rearguards, they just work together really nicely. To help find these pieces, I've also opted to run 4 copies of Dragon Dancer Faria, another grade 2 that gains power based on our opponent not having any rearguards, but also helps find Doha and Garan to help our board building. We've also chosen to run 4 copies of Dragonite Ishak, another unit that just plays doubly strong to the playstyle of board tempo, gaining another 10k if our opponent's board is empty, but also being able to help play towards that with its skill to retire not only 1, but 2 rearguards if we have another grade 3 rearguard. And lo and behold, we do have Blazing Flare Dragon. The last 9 slots in our deck will go towards tech. We recognize that our deck does need a lot of counterblast to play, so we obviously run 4 copies of Flame of Hope Ammo. And to help find our grade 3s, we choose to run 4 copies of Dragonite Heshot as our ideal grade 1 ride for its skill to find one of our grade 3 pieces. With our last slot, we run Turret Cannon as an alternate source of retire every turn. Honestly, it could be anything. Even Burn Rise. We run a standard trigger lineup of 8 crits, 4 Draw Sentinels, and 4 Healed Guardians. Once again, the Healed Guardians proving useful as a body on board for a card like Ishak. Honestly, I think there's little that you can change about the deck, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. A lot of these card choices are pretty set in stone. Perhaps understanding how board reliant you are, you may opt to play more draw triggers to find more units faster. Perhaps you might even consider Dragonic Blade Master Soen as a means of closing out the game with 2 twin drive attacks. In any case, this has been it from me for this episode of Clan Clashing Cores. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Like the video as it helps motivate us to keep the gears going, and leave a comment down below. Every little bit helps the channel. This has been Toku from YellowCard Vanguard channel. Toku out.